to Wealthymize, the platform where we seek to help you make smart financial decisions with PPIG 4FREE. Now, if you do not know what these abbreviations stand for by now, look into the description of our YouTube channel or refer to one of our earlier videos where Amy would have described what it entails. But without further ado, let me jump into today's topic, and that's drawing from an article in the Business Times last December. In fact, it was December 6th, where an announcement was made that the CPF interest rates for special MediSave and retirement accounts, or in short, SMRA, will be raised to 4.08% this year. Now, you'll see here that it's not the first time that there's been an increase from 4% as we traditionally know it. And this 4.08% is good for this quarter from Jan 1st to 31st March. But from the previous quarter, that's an increase raised of 0.4%. So how were these figures arrived at? Now, before I jump into that, let's look at also what that means for your retirement account, because for those of us who are following closely your CPF accounts, you will know that your RA or retirement account follows or has been matching your special account SA at 4%. But with the change last year to 4.04%, actually for RA it's remained at 4%. The change only took effect this quarter, Jan 1st, to be raised to 4.08% from 4% in 2023. Now you see here that there is a difference in the way SA or SMA or special MediSave accounts have been computed versus your RA. So prior to this year, SMA accounts are reviewed on a quarterly basis. That's the same for OA at 2.5%, but for RA, it has traditionally been reviewed on an annual basis. Now, effective this year, SMRA will be reviewed on a quarterly basis. So we're going to see RA being more robust to reflect what is the current interest environment. So how are these magical figures derived? Let me bring you to the CPF website. If you went to cpf.gov.sg and looked into the FAQs, you will see that there is this question: how are CPF interest rates determined? How are CPF interest rates determined? Ordinary account, 2.5%. This is on the basis of the 3-month average of the major local banks' interest rates. And that's DBS, OCBC, UOB. What the average 3-month percent is, this is, however, subject to a legislated minimum interest of 2.5% for our OA. And you will see later on when I deep dive into the figures that it has for a long time been below 2.5%. And that's why for ordinary account, it looks as if there's been no change. It's been at the 2.5 legislated minimum. Now for SMRA, on the other hand, the special MediSave and retirement account, the basis of computation is different. The savings there earns a 12-month average yield of the Singapore SGS, 10-year SGS, Singapore Government Securities, plus 1%. Now, this, however, has been subject to a minimum or a floor rate of 4%. Now, it says current floor rate, so it's right now at 4%. That might change over time, we do not know, but this is reviewed on a quarterly basis. What's more relevant, I think, for the bulk of us is to understand how were these CPF numbers derived. If we went back to when CPF was first introduced, you will see that the first time that there was such a figure was actually back in 1955. So now this might be interesting for some of us, but 1955, for the first 7 years, it was set at 2.5%, and that's for OA only. There was only one account. In fact, it was only until 1977 you will see that there is a distinction between OA and SA, and what you could do with your OA, which is supporting house ownership, home ownership. And some of us could be using it that for our children's tertiary education as well. Whereas for SA, that's really to be kept aside for our silver or retirement golden years. Now, you see that the rates from 1963 all the way up to 1985, that's been, or in 86 actually, that's been at a high 6.5% to 5.3 thereabouts. But after Jan 1987, you see that the rates have come down. So again, what was the basis? You will see that that's based for OA on the 3 months average of the local bank's interest rates, whereas for special and MediSave account, that is tied to the 10-year Singapore government securities yield plus 1%. Now, over time, you'll find that because of the interest rate environment has come down, bond rates have come down, and that's why for a long time it looks like we have not changed in our rates. But the fact is they have been computed on a regular basis. Now, in recent years, then you will see that what's documented here on a quarterly basis, right? So this PDF document from CPF website dates all the way back. You will see that these were the rates based on the computation of the bank interest rate and the 10-year SGS plus 1%. And because it's been below the 4% has applied. However, we came to when in entering into the high inflation environment, when interest rate has gone up, SGS rates have gone up, you find that then the environment has changed in that it has gone above the 4%. Now, let's look at this. So you see, even for the bank interest rate, the average has gone up from a low of 0. Almost nothing to 0.2, 0.5, and for the last 3 quarters it's been at 0.66. However, because there's a legislated minimum of 2.5%, our OA interest rate has remained at 2.5 per annum. On the other hand, for special MediSave accounts, and this year onwards for the retirement account as well, this SMR accounts, you'll see that for the last 3 quarters, actually, this has exceeded 4%. And that explains why we have gone from the minimum, the floor rate of 4% to 4.1, and then to 4.4, and to 4.08. For RA, it has remained at 4% because it was reviewed on an annual basis, but effective this year is going to be changed in line with the special and MediSave account to quarterly basis, so as to reflect the more current and prevailing rates, and that's why it's at 4.08%. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful for you, especially those of us who are, as we draw closer to the retirement age, we take a more personal interest as to what has been happening to our CPF accounts. And those of you who are familiar with CPF Life, that's what you can look forward to from age 65 onwards, where you get lifetime income of X dollar depending on how much you have in your RA retirement account. On the related note, let me highlight that this article continues to emphasize that there's a first 60,000 that all of us do enjoy, not just the 2.5% and the 4%, or 4.08% now, but there's an additional 1%, extra 1% on the first 60K. And for OA, it's kept at 20K, which means for SA, it's your first 40K that earns the extra 1%. Now, if you are 55 and above, then it's an extra 2% on the first 30K, and then the next 30K is the same thing as those under 55, it's the extra 1%. The same cap applies for your OA balances, meaning to say the first 20K of your OA, that's subject to that 2%, and then thereafter the rest additional 1%. And the other thing that this news article has highlighted is this basic healthcare sum, which really refers to your MediSave amount. The cap has been raised from 68.5K last year to 71.5K this year. And this is important to note because medical inflation is higher than our, general inflation. And the fact is, retirement planning is more than just retirement income. It is also the availability of liquidity and funds for our healthcare needs. That's all for today, and I hope it's been helpful for you. Join us for the next Wealthy Mice series. Thank you.